Do you really need to invest in notes in your own backyard? Stay tuned. Well, welcome to this week's edition of NoteSchool TV, where every Wednesday at 11:05 Central Time, we bring you the most amazing content and the most amazing guests. And today is going to be no different. We do have an amazing guest today, and we'll bring him on in just a minute. So before we do, a couple of requests here. Number one, make sure and like what you see. Yep, hit that like button. Make sure and do that for us. And also, if you have not already subscribed to the NoteSchool TV channel, make sure and go ahead and do that as well. And then finally, hit that bell notification. Yes, go ahead and hit that bell notification right now so that you will be reminded when we go live. When? Every Wednesday at 11:05 Central Time. Couple of other things. Number one, keep your comments coming. Guys, Eddie and I love to see your comments. We love to hear from you, interact with you, and so on. So questions and comments right there in the comment section. We really, really do appreciate that. Those of you that do, we appreciate it. Also, if you would like to learn more about what we do at NoteSchool, simply go to noteschool.com/TV. Again, noteschool.com/TV. Guys, we would love to have you in one of our 2-hour master classes to expand on, well, some of the things we talk about here and show you what we do at NoteSchool. And remember, our motto at NoteSchool is that we show you how to close more deals. Yep, we show you how to close more deals at NoteSchool. All right, so with that, well, let's jump into the news. So this week in the news, well, here's some interesting stats, guys. I'm going to get my pen going here, and more than 8 million Americans are reportedly still behind on their rent. Okay, so yep, here are the headlines. 8,070,000 people are ages 18 and older in the U.S. aren't caught up on rent payments. Put another way, 13.17% of the nation's adult renters live in a household that charges them rent, and they are behind. Guys, that equates to somewhere around $15 billion in past due rent. And, one of the things that folks say is, well, Joe, what about all the government money that was gone? Look, that was capped out, guys. That was capped out at $5,000 per landlord. So if you were 12 months at $1,500 behind, you were $18,000 on your rent. You may be paying now, and maybe your landlord got the $5,000, or the landlord got the $5,000. But that means that, well, there's still $13,000 in the hole there. So it is a major issue. And the reason that I bring this to you, by the way, here are the states with the largest share of people that are behind. Number one is New York. Number two is Nevada. And then you can see the rest there, and that's brought to us by the good folks at Lending Tree, is simply this. You've heard us talk about over and over and over on NoteSchool TV. Guys, this is the opportunity. There are a lot of, as Eddie would say, not burned out landlords, but burnt out landlords. Yep, there's a lot of burnt out landlords out there, and that is an opportunity for us as creative real estate investors to get those people into, get them out of their rentals and into passive income, which is what they wanted, right? So, yeah, so we talk about that a lot at NoteSchool as far as working with burnout landlords and creative financing. And finally, this is the latest data on NPL data from Black Knight. Black Knight, big firm based in Jacksonville, Florida, right up the road from me. And their analytics are the best in the industry. But here's the bottom line. These are the number of folks that are 30 days or more past due. And by the way, January is the latest data that we have. It lags somewhere between 30 and 60 days behind. But number of properties that are 30 days or more past due, but not in foreclosure. That's about 13.775 million. And then again, these are 2 million, a little over 2 million number of properties that are 30 days or more past due or in foreclosure. And then I think we reported last week that there's about 1.2 million zombie properties where the borrowers have moved out and the banks haven't foreclosed as well. And those are your zombie properties. So we've got a ways to go. And so with that, that is the news. Now, today we've got an amazing guest. Why don't we go ahead and bring on Nathan Turner from, Nathan is from Canada. And how you doing, Nathan?
I'm doing very well, thanks.
Okay, can I do the obligatory A thing?
Absolutely. How's it going, eh?
How's it going, eh? Very good. Do that one more time.
How's it going, eh?
Yeah, so Nathan is he does a lot of things, but one of the biggest things that he does is, well, he runs a company, president of Earnest Inc, and that is your note buying arm there. And you also run Earnest Investing LP, and you work with accredited investors on investing in notes, right? Passively. Yeah. So we'll come to all of that in just a minute, but Nathan, go ahead and tell us a little bit about your life before notes, and then we'll kind of move forward from there.
I got started the same way that a lot of guys got started. First of all, thanks for having me on. This is awesome. I watch your show quite often, so I'm glad to be here. But yeah, I got started like I would say most note investors get started. They come from a real estate background. And that was me too. I was doing fix and flip back when it was really easy, back in 05, 06, where I hardly had to do anything to the house, and I was able to sell it. And this was all in Canada, and I was able to sell it. It was actually across the country real quick. So I was living in Montreal, Canada, which is just above Vermont, and I was flipping properties in Saskatoon, Saskatchewan, just above Wyoming. Right. And so I would fly out with my suitcase full of tools and a sleeping bag, work like crazy for a week or two, renovating the house. And then at the time, the market was hot enough. It was easy. It was real easy.
So literally you were investing just in Canada doing fix and flips at that point, right?
Right. Yeah.
And so you would fly across the country with your tool, and you would sleep in the house.
Yeah. Left with a crowbar beside my sleeping bag, just in case.
Did you buy an extra suitcase you were there so that you could bring home the money?
Almost. I mean, it was really good, and the market was flying, and everything was hot, and most of the time I had the house sold before I even went home. Yeah. So like I say, it was easy, and some money was good, and things were rolling, and it was fantastic until it wasn't.
That's what I was going to just say, right? It's always good until it's not good anymore, yeah. Right?
Yeah.
So something significant happened in 2009. Nathan, tell us a little bit about that. And by the way, Nathan is known as the Canadian note guy. I mean, he's a big deal. Okay. So go ahead and tell us about what happened in 2009.
Well, so I got out of the fix and flip thing. I ended up being a landlord for a little while. Found out I really did not enjoy that at all. I was a burnt out landlord. I did not enjoy that at all. I did like the cash flow, but nothing else. Yeah. Got involved with a group in the US where they had bought a bunch of properties in April of 2007.
Okay.
And so they'd bought like right at the top of the market, way overpaid. So by the fall of 2008, they were in panic mode. They brought on myself and my old business partner and said, do whatever you can. So being from Canada, we thought we'd invented seller financing. We're so smart. Look at this. We got this all figured out. And it was in the process of doing that and trying to figure out, okay, so now we've got I don't even remember what we called them. We didn't call them notes. We didn't know that was a term. Right. We had something that I thought surely there's a way we can cash out on these.
Right.
So doing a bunch of internet research, and I came across this guy called Eddie Speed. And what he was describing was exactly what we were doing. And I thought, this is it. This is what I've been looking for.
Right.
So I went down and took his class in, I think it was like the fall of 2009, fall of 2009, something like that. So that was my first introduction education on notes. And I thought, this is amazing. This was exactly what I was looking for.
So, the teaser was, so do you have, a lot of people get hung up on needing to invest in their own backyard.
Yeah.
And we had a note school student, or we have a note school student, and he said when he got into the note space, he would not buy a note if it was any closer than an 8-hour drive. If it was closer than that, he would not buy it because he did not even want to be tempted to drive to go look at that house. And so you went not to another, 8 hours away, but you actually, you were in the US and you were doing business. And so making that leap, how was that for you?
Well, I tell people, you shouldn't invest outside of your backyard. So that's exactly what I do. I just have a really big backyard.
Yeah.
But I'm fine with that. And it's, it's all in the mindset and just figuring out what you want to do and how you want to do it. It's not a big deal. It's really not. So for me, it was looking at, so the Canadian banking system is just different enough where this opportunity just doesn't exist. Like I say, I thought we'd invented seller financing because it just is so rare in Canada. It almost never happens. So recognizing where the opportunity is, I follow the money.
Well, that's it. And, that's what you've got to do. And I love the fact that you were, you made that leap and you're right. I mean, I've spent a lot of time up in Canada, whether it's in, your neck of the woods in the Calgary area there and with Calgary and Red Deer and, all up in there. And then was it Yellow? There's Yellowknife up in there as well, right?
Well, that's further north, but yeah.
Further north, but yeah. And then from Vancouver to spend some time in, in Winnipeg, right?
Okay. Oh, wow.
And all the way, I loved Winnipeg. But, it wasn't, the seller financing wasn't a big deal. But then, of course, it blew up here. And then that was an opportunity for you. So let's talk then. So what do so you got into the business, you were working out these deals in the Las Vegas market. And that was
kind of everywhere.
Yeah. Okay.
And just wherever the deal was, that initial set of properties that we had to deal with, it was mostly Midwest. So it was Ohio, Michigan, Indiana, mostly. And they were kind of spread out all over, but mostly centered in those 3 states. And so part of what I did was I rented a car and I drove, there were 60 properties and I drove to almost every single one of them just to see what we had. Yeah. And we did not have much. So seller financing was a fantastic way for us to get out of these without any operating capital, which we didn't have. They just gave us the properties and said, do what you can, but no operating budget to do anything with it.
Well, and this now, and that there was places like Cleveland, Ohio, and Dayton, and since there was a lot of non-performing assets in those areas of the country, and typically you would have people from other states to the west, right? They would come in. They could buy 10 properties in Ohio for what they could buy 1 for in their own state, and they came in, and then when the market crashed, they just threw up their hands, and then that became an opportunity.
Yeah, absolutely.
And, when we talk about non-performing notes, we look back on that, the difference between, it was harder then too, because most of them, they were way underwater, right?
Always. Yeah.
Taxes were not paid.
No.
They were not insured.
No.
Right.
No.
And now it's almost like a breeze because there's equity in the properties and so on. So let's kind of delve into that. Let's talk about non-performing loans. And you were recently down at IMN in Orlando, And so let's talk about your seg then, and what you're doing in the NPL space and so on as well.
Yeah. I mean, I cut my teeth on all of that stuff, where it was the best thing that we had was pricing. I mean, you could get into these things for next to nothing. And what it allowed me to do was make all kinds of mistakes and still be okay.
Right. Yeah.
And today, I love what you guys are doing with NoteSchool, because education is paramount. You absolutely have to know far better what you're doing before you get into this, which is where NoteSchool comes in, because get the training so you know what you're doing, because it's not like back in the day. Pricing is much different. You could lose your shirt today.
Well, we were paying back then, it was nothing to pay 15 to 25% of value.
Yeah.
Right. I remember an article coming out when it was Bank of America was the first U.S. bank to sell off a pool of non-performing loans. Right. Yeah. And the headline was Bank of America, first U.S. lender to sell off a pool of non-performing loans. These loans consist mainly of countrywide originations that were made between 2004 and 2005. The unpaid balance was just a tick, like $985 million.
Yeah.
And they sold for $45 million. So about 5 cents on the dollar to the hedge fund, which meant that we would buy them at 15 to 20%.
Well, and the first thing you said there is of value. We bought it based on value because the unpaid balance was astronomical. It was always underwater. So the pricing model back then was different. You had to look at things a little bit differently.
And I'll never forget, in that article, it said these were vintage, air quotes, vintage loans. And they were. This was in 2014 when those were being transacted, by the way.
Wow.
Yeah. So let's talk about then. So you do performing, and so you talk about kind of what you do in your business as far as your note buying, and then we can kind of jump into them investing with you, accredited passive investors. So let's talk about the note buying company.
Sure. So I've set it up as it's a U.S. based fund. Everything I do is in the U.S. I actually haven't bought or sold anything in Canada. Maybe 15 years. It's been a long time. I haven't done anything in Canada for a long time. But it's a U.S. based 506c Reg D fund, which means it's open to accredited investors. Mm-hmm. And then with the money that I'm raising for that, then I go out and buy a mix. I buy some performing and some non-performing.
Okay.
It's about 70-30 split, about 70% performing, 30% non-performing. And that performing allows me to make sure that the investors are covered and that they're taken care of. And then that extra 30% is where I get to play. I really enjoy non-performing. I think it's a lot of fun. Yeah. Everybody's got a story. Everybody's got some kind of situation. And I like getting into it and saying, okay, so I read a book, 2010, 2011, somewhere in there, by a guy by the name of Bill Bartman. Do you remember him?
I do.
Yeah. And he would buy unsecured debt. He bought credit card debt.
Oh, yeah.
And paid 2 or 3 cents on the dollar. So that was, risky, but he got fantastic pricing. But anyway, there are a few things I pulled out of that book, but one of the most important things that I took from that was he talked about the line that he uses, the only thing we can't do is nothing. And I thought, man, that is brilliant.
Wow.
We can do so many things. I'm not a bank, so I'm far more flexible than a bank. The only thing we can't do is nothing.
That's right.
Something's going to happen here. Let's figure out what it's going to be. And that's been a lasting principle for me.
Quick, if someone doesn't know what an accredited investor, tell us what an accredited investor is.
So according to the government,
yes,
you're extra smart if you make a little bit more money.
Right.
So the definition is for an individual, you make $200,000 a year or more. Mm-hmm. If you're combining your investment with your spouse, it's $300,000 or more.
Right.
Or you've got a net worth of $1 million outside of your primary residence.
Got it.
Or more, of course. But yeah.
So you're not taking grandma's last $40,000 to invest.
No. No, and when I first got started, it was friends and family that helped me to get off my feet, and it was amazing, and we had a lot of great success with that. But as I've kind of grown it and moved into more things and hopefully better things, we'll see. But I would actually love to open it up to some non-accredited, but I'm limited by the structure itself.
Yeah. That's all. That's another whole conversation, is it not?
Absolutely. Yeah.
So, a lot of people are mystified by the whole non-performing thing, as far as what all these things that can happen. But really, there's only, I always tell people that when you buy a performing note, three things can happen, right? Number one, it pays as agreed. There's 28 years left. It pays off over 20 years. Pays off early, either by a refinance, or they sell the property and move on, or the borrower goes into default.
Right.
And then if it goes into default, there are three things that can happen, right? Modification, deed in lieu, or foreclosure. So what are you guys finding that you're doing the most of in today's marketplace, as far as the non-performing stuff you're buying?
In today's, so compared to 10 years ago, I did a ton of foreclosures because so many of the properties were vacant.
Yeah.
So I was probably 50% foreclosures because so many of these were not occupied. Today, that's different. Today, now you've got equity. Now you've got people that are in that house and they just had some kind of hardship. Right. And probably 95% of the time, if the person is still there and we can open a dialogue, we can get them repaying. Yeah. We'll do some kind of modification, reinstatement, whatever it might be, and get them making payments again. And it's the cool thing is, not only does that just feel good, but it's actually a really great exit strategy. So I'm extra motivated to try to actually do that. It's not just a line. It's not just a marketing thing that we're trying to keep up people in the home. No, it's your best exit most of the time. So,
and there is, and I'm sure you use this, and this is the homeowner assistance funds that are available. Before there was the 18 hardest hit states, right? For the hardest hit fund. Right. Back in the day, in the last NPL cycle. Today, that's available in all 50 states. And gosh, a lot of people just don't raise their hand and go in after those funds, right? Yeah. But if you can point them in that direction, I mean, we're having success stories, every week now with folks that are past due, and the state's writing a check and catching it up and paying into the future and paying the taxes and all of those things. So are you guys utilizing some of that as well?
Yeah, absolutely. And then even on top of that, once they're making payments again, another great exit strategy is for them to pay me off in full. Yes. So today it's not as easy as maybe 2 years ago when interest rates were 3-4%. Right. But I would say, okay, let's get you into a credit repair, fix up your credit. We'll take your interest rate from with me at 8 or 9%, get you into a 3 or 4%. And I would actually print out 2 amortization schedules and say, so this is what it is with me right now. This is what it could be. Look at how much money you're saving, and try to get them to refinance. And it's not so bad now. If they can get a 6%, that's still better than 8 or 9. So I'll show them the difference.
And what we do see, Nathan, is on seller finance, a lot of them were higher rates, and again, over the past couple of years with rates being 3%, it's not a hard leap to go from where you're paying 7.5 or 8 now. Yeah. Maybe we can get you cleaned up and you can go out and refinance it, and then you're just getting a lump sum of cash. I did a lot of that in the 90s when I first started. If I bought a note, I would, that's one of my exit strategies to get paid out, would be to have them go in and refinance it and pay me off, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
So you guys then are focused at this point. And one of the things I do, we can make this a feel good here for just a second, because really a lot of people slip through the cracks, right? They don't, they do. And so we can help one person at a time, right?
Yeah. Yeah, that's it. And it's kind of a popular term these days is impact investing. Mm-hmm. This is the ultimate impact investment, because it's not just, saving the environment, all that's great. Mm-hmm. But here we're literally changing people's lives. where they were stressed out, losing sleep over, worrying about losing their house. And then somebody like us comes in there and says, well, let's fix the problem. Let's figure out what can you pay. If you can't do whatever it was, $800 or $900 a month, could you do $600? Right. And they'll say, yes, that would make all the difference in the world. Fantastic.
And that it's such a good feeling to be able to do that, to be able to get in there, and it's not corny when we say that, guys. That's not,
that's it happens every day.
That's a real deal. And that's a pretty great feeling when you can go in and you can do something like that, and you can give somebody a hand up. And I've always loved that. And that's one of the biggest things about the business that I've always enjoyed is that. So what is your typical investor look like in your passive and accredited investor?
You know what? These are the busy professionals. The guys I actually went to last year, a couple of times I went to a dentist conference, and I would just set up my booth and tell people this is what I'm doing. And it's a cool spin on real estate. And a lot of these guys maybe have even dabbled in some real estate. Maybe they've done okay, maybe they haven't. But this is a way to get into real estate without having to get their hands dirty. And it's, in my opinion, it's safer than just raw real estate. Yeah, and it gives you a lot more options.
And we do see a lot of busy professionals. We've got a lot of our folks that do a model like that. Mm-hmm. And I heard you mention it. We've all been landlords, Nathan.
Yes.
Right. And if that's your thing, we're not knocking you guys. I mean, that's just what it is. It's just what we've chosen to not do. Yeah. It's great to get that. They used to call it mailbox money, but it's not even mailbox money anymore. It's direct deposit money. That's right. You don't even have to go to the mailbox.
No, you just open up your computer. Oh, look at that. Oh, great.
That's it. And you've got a servicer servicing that, so you don't have to make sure the tax. I mean, it really is that peace of mind that you do get, and that's what people are looking for. So, So, Adam, let's. I've got the slide up there. So, talk a little bit about your the Diversified Mortgage Expo that's coming up.
Yeah, this is exciting. So, this is a new thing for me. This is actually the 8th annual Diversified Mortgage Expo, but I just took it over.
Okay.
So I've done some larger event planning and things like that with my church, and that's been fantastic. And it's been great preparation to get into this. I am actually a huge proponent. Anybody who's heard me speak in the past ever, it's rare that I won't talk about this. Go to conferences. Yeah. All conferences. I've already been to 3 this year. I'm going to at least 3 more. 3 or 4 more this year that are coming up, because they are so incredibly valuable. Yeah. Before COVID, my wife will tell you, we'd have these conversations where I'm like, I don't know. I'm not sure I want to go. I'm tired. It sounds all glamorous to go to these cool cities and do that. I never leave the conference center. Like,
you never leave the conference center. You pretty much never go to bed.
No. So it sounds all, and don't get me wrong, it's a lot of fun, but I was just getting tired. And then she would remind me that every single time I would come home saying, oh, I met this person, or I talked to this vendor, and this is going to, change things this way and that way. And I've got this new lead for this, or new idea that I hadn't known before, every time. So it's incredibly valuable. So much so that Liz and Kimberly were the ones running this before, and they both decided that it's just not for them.
Right.
For all kinds of different reasons, good reasons, and asked if I wanted to take over, and I jumped at it because I love conferences. I think they're incredibly valuable, and I'm hoping to make this one the same way, something that's tangible and people can come away and feel like they not only learned something, but they've got some deals under their belt.
This is, again, if you want to grow your business, and if you want to grow as an individual, you've got to go out. It's when you're stuck at, in your home office or in your office around, you feel like it's only you out there, right? It's like, God, but when you get out and you go to if you haven't been to one lately, you don't realize the energy and just the recommitment you get to the business and moving your business forward. It's an amazing thing. Yeah, everybody should certainly take advantage of something like this. And I know I looked through your speakers, and obviously you've got Colonial Funding Group. So Colonial is our sister company, and we had Bob Repass on last week, who is our managing director of Colonial Funding Group, and he's going to be one of the speakers. And actually, Colonial is going to be one of the ice cream sponsors there, or is going to be the ice cream sponsor. So
I've seen this done at a couple of conferences, including Note Expo. So I sort of stole the idea, but the different spin we're doing from Note Expo is that we're doing Ben and Jerry's. So Ben and Jerry's is coming out there. They've got their little cart, and you can get your scoop of ice cream and just chat and talk to everybody. And man, it is so incredibly valuable. I think one of the big things is our industry is pretty niche.
Yeah. So
it's a big deal to get to a conference, and at the very least, you're talking to somebody that knows what you're talking about.
Yeah. It's like, what do you do? And you start talking to them. I love it when you say, I invest in non-performing notes, and their face goes,
yeah.
The one word answer, guys, is price, right? I mean,
right.
And opportunity. So, any final parting words here for us today, as far as anything you would let people know is, being from another country, basically, here investing, or just any encouragement or whatever it is, whatever you want to say.
This is a fantastic business, and I watched the show last week talking to Bob, and I couldn't agree more. I don't think we're going to see another tsunami, but I call this a very rideable wave. So get on board, get your surfboard, let's get going, because this is a very rideable wave. And I mean, you just pulled up the slides before. We're seeing it, and it's coming, and it's getting more and more. In 2019, we were all going, okay, any minute now, something's going to happen. And so when COVID hit, we all thought that was going to be it.
Yeah.
Government pumped in a ton of money, which I think was the right thing to do.
Right.
But it artificially propped it up. And so we're still waiting for that crash that we're waiting for in 2019. And I think
it was that whole kick the can down the road thing.
Absolutely.
And again, people needed help, no doubt about it. And, so it's a thing, non-performing. Now, performing loans, look, 70% of what you do is it's in that cash flow.
Yeah.
In that cash flow, getting a great cash flow. It's a safe investment. But then that 30% that you play with on the other side, that's where you kind of get the big bumps, right? And the amazing pieces of that, and the big bumps of cash.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And the performing notes, they'll be around forever. But you know what? So will the non-performing. So it's a great business. Get in. If you don't know how to do it, take a class. If you want to meet people that are doing it, go to a conference. Go to mine, go to Note Expo.
Absolutely.
Meet people.
That's the two must-sees this year is Diversified Mortgage Expo and Note Expo.
Absolutely.
So, final question here. Your why, as far as your family and your life and that your life on the other side of this, the non-note side of that.
Yeah. So I'm not even home right now. We're in Utah, visiting my wife's brother and his family, with my family. But we're taking an extra week attached to our spring break, just going out and traveling. I've got 3 kids, teenagers now, and they're really fantastic kids. My wife is a fantastic mother and has taught them well, and I've just been there to lend support where I can. But it's good. It's just good. And again, Notes is something where I can do it from home. I'm there to see them off to school. I drive them to school, and then I'm there when they get home, and it's wonderful. Yeah. Great business.
There's some big news in the Varnador household this week. Our youngest daughter turns 18 today, right? And we are going to be first-time grandparents sometime this week, right?
Good.
My son and his wife live down in Fort Lauderdale. I get a call Sunday about noon. Dad, I think it's time. I said, okay, we'll go to the hospital, and we're on our way. We're about an hour and a half from Boca.
Okay.
And he calls. He says, oh, well, it was a false alarm. I said, well, we're ready. We're ready. We're there. So big weekend. That's what it's all about, man.
That's
what it's all about.
It is. Absolutely.
All right. We are going to also put up a link to the expo and so that everybody can do that, and look forward to seeing you very soon. I won't see you at the expo, but I will see you at Note Expo.
Yeah.
So thanks so much, Nathan. You're a good guy, and we appreciate what you do. And I just enjoyed talking to you today.
Good. Thank you. Great to be.
Very good. So, guys, thank you so much for being with us today on this week's edition of NoteSchool TV. Like I said, Nathan is he's an amazing guy. He's put an amazing business together. And guys, you can build your own business just like that. You don't have to invest in your backyard. It's just about getting out there and getting with it. So that's it. We will see you next week, same place, same time, 11:05 Central Time. Questions, noteschool.com/TV. Have a great Easter weekend, and we will see you guys next week. Thanks so much.